Biogeochemical cycles is basically the turnover or cycling of substances in a pathway by which a chemical substance moves through biotic and abiotic compartments of Earth. The term biogeochemical tells us that biological, geological, and then chemical factors are all involved. The circulation of nutrients like carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, and phosphorus are all like biogeochemical cycles.
Water is crucial to all life on Earth, so let's start with that. As I just said, water crucial to everything on Earth. Every single living organism requires water to survive. There are no exceptions to this rule. For fish, they breathe it and they swim in it. Humans, we drink it and we use it as a source of energy, and loads of animals use it for navigation in their migrations. All living things, it cycles back to water. First, liquid water evaporates into water vapor, which condenses into clouds, which is finally precipitated back to Earth, which then comes back into rivers and then evaporates and the cycle repeats. Plants need water as well, and so do animals. Plants use water in photosynthesis, and they do that by decomposition, which is basically the breaking down of organic matter into simpler substances. Next, we get the carbon cycle. Carbon is also crucial for life on Earth. It's crucial for complex molecules like proteins and DNA, as well as RNA. Carbon dioxide starts in the atmosphere, then it's either sucked in by plants or breathed by animals. Then, through waste, turns into sediment, which is burned back into the air by combustion, along with some carbonates, to make new carbon dioxide, which then repeats the cycle. Also owe a lot of its climate success to carbon, with carbon sinks. Carbon sinks are kind of like large rivers with a high presence of carbon dioxide. This helps regulate Earth's temperature, and it's overall just good for the planet. Another essential element in all living things is phosphorus. It's in fact so essential that humans have actually they've done a thing called phosphate mining, which is when we mine literally for phosphorus. It's that valuable. It's usually found in soil and sediment, and it's also a crucial component of adenosine triphosphate, ATP for short, which can be simplified down to the transportation of chemical energy within cells for the purpose of metabolism, DNA, and RNA. Its starting point in the cycle is inside the soil. Phosphorus is found here due to additions of inorganic and organic fertilizer or manure. Then it is exported through plant intake or erosion. After this, it is recycled in phosphate rock formation, and it's sometimes mined out in phosphate mining, as I said before.
Finally, the nitrogen cycle. Nitrogen is a component of proteins and nucleic acids and is essential to all of life on Earth. 78% of our oxygen in the atmosphere is made of nitrogen gas. However, most of all organisms on Earth can't use nitrogen gas unless your name is plants. The nitrogen cycle is how the nitrogen is recycled and reused throughout the Earth, and how it maintains 78% of our atmosphere. The first step of nitrogen cycle is nitrogen fixation. Nitrogen fixation is when nitrogen gas from the atmosphere is converted into inorganic nitrogen compounds, and it's mostly done by bacteria and algae. The opposite of this is nitrogen assimilation. This is when inorganic nitrogen compounds are turned into organic nitrogen compounds. Somewhere along the way of this, the remains and waste of organisms is decomposed into the soil in the process of ammonification. After that, nitrification occurs. This is when nitrifying bacteria modifies the soil into nitrates, and plants use nitrates for their tissue. After this, and finally, denitrification occurs. This is when denitrifying bacteria converts nitrogen in the soil into atmospheric nitrogen.
So the problem the farmers are experiencing is that while they're increasing their yield and crop growth, it's damaging the environment around them and hurting other organisms and animals. While yes, the farmers want to keep the environment around them as they found it, they also want to make money and have some great crops. So we have to find a solution that satisfies both of these demands. One solution is just finding a better fertilizer that doesn't hurt the environment while still keeping the same or better crop yield. There are many great fertilizer companies, and I'm sure that you could find some that would satisfy both of these demands. Another solution is you could infest the river with a sort of algae that would eat all the toxic materials that was going into the river. That would keep the river clean, and all the fish would be very, very happy, as well as the farmers would not lose any crop yields. One way that the water cycle is impacted by humans is irrigation. Irrigation is where you move water so that where areas without water can receive water from rivers, and it greatly impacts the climate in those regions. Another way that the water cycle is impacted by humans is dams. Dams are giant walls and rivers that help regulate the flow of water in rivers, and it's really, really crucial for preventing flash floods. Perhaps one of the most impactful ways that humans impact this carbon cycle is, of course, fossil fuels. Fossil fuels we burn fossil fuels all the time, and we have been for centuries. And it's leading to climate problems now, and that we will have to solve eventually. Another way that humans impact the carbon cycle is deforestation. We cut down trees to put more buildings everywhere, and it just reduces the planet's ability to absorb carbon dioxide, and that takes away from our oxygen, and that's just bad. Humans have a significant impact on the phosphorus cycle in two ways. One of them is the fertilizer use. When farmers apply large amounts of phosphorus-rich fertilizers, it can leak into waterways during rain, causing eutrophisation, which is excessive algal growth. Another way that humans have an impact on the phosphorus cycle is when untreated or poorly treated sewage that contains phosphorus is released into water bodies, and it contributes to algae blooms. Humans have a significant impact on the nitrogen cycle, and one of these ways is that when fossil fuels are burned, nitrogen compounds are released into the atmosphere, which contributes to a lot of smog and acid rain formation. Another way is in fertilizer use again. Large-scale agricultural practices often rely heavily on nitrogen-rich fertilizers, which can lead to excessive nitrogen runoff into waterways, which causes algae blooms and disrupts aquatic ecosystems.